Hey, it's Maggie. I'm a high school English teacher in North Carolina, and I'm going to talk about something that I think a lot of teachers struggle with, and that is consequences and what to do when students don't follow your rules or procedures. If you want to know what my classroom rules and procedures are, then you can check my last video, which I will link down below for you, where I talk about all my rules and procedures and how I address some of the issues that may come up in class. So rules and procedures are very important. However, we know that sometimes students are not going to follow them. So the next thing would be you need to have consequences for when that happens. You need to decide these ahead of time. That is a very important part of the process, because if you don't have a consequence, then you don't know what to do when the student breaks the rule or does not follow the procedure. I am a big believer in natural consequences, meaning the consequence for whatever the rule or procedure is should fit the crime per se. For instance, if students are writing on my desk, I make them clean them. If a student is talking while I'm talking, then they lose their privilege to talk. If a student is using their headphones or laptop or cell phone inappropriately or when they're not supposed to be, then they lose it. They lose that privilege. And those to me are what I consider to be natural consequences. If I can't trust them to go to the bathroom and take an appropriate amount of time, or they're wandering and not where they're supposed to be, then they lose the privilege to leave the classroom. I think those make sense for high school classrooms. However, there's always a time where something may be a bigger deal than just a natural consequence. For instance, if a student uses inappropriate language constantly, I have addressed them, I have told them that it's inappropriate, I've asked them to correct it, and they continue, then that would for me be a write-up, or a discipline referral, whatever your school calls it. I think the difference for me in a natural consequence and it becoming an administration issue or a big write-up or a discipline referral is when the action is repeated. You have tried to handle it multiple times in your own classroom and you have discussed it with the student. If it continues to happen then to me that would be a big issue, where someone above you and over you needs to handle it. Make sure that you are also in compliance with your school rules, because your school may have a very specific way that they address this issue or a child breaking this rule. So make sure that you maybe talk with a fellow teacher or an administrator or someone who can clarify that for you. Most schools have a student handbook or a teacher staff handbook that will sometimes address this as well. So one question that I was asked was, what do you do if you have rules and procedures, but a class has just lost it? And what I mean is, it's not just one student breaking the rules or not following the procedures, it's most of the class. So the question would be, what do you do? And this is sometimes a tricky one. The first thing I would say is you need to think about what you have been doing or haven't been doing with the problem. I'm going to use myself as an example. I have let two of my classes talk over top of me for too long. And normally I just say the natural consequence is, if you're talking while I'm talking, you miss the directions, therefore your grade will be bad, and that's the natural consequence. However, it's gotten to the point that even some of my good students cannot hear sometimes the directions or what I'm saying, and they can't focus because of other people around them, and I have allowed this to continue. So that's my fault. And I haven't been addressing it. I've also been letting myself get angry, as opposed to trying to solve the problem. I've been yelling at the students, and that's a problem that I have to handle. So before you really jump on the students, you have to think about, have you been actually tackling the problem yourself? And this can be hard. So for instance, the first time I let a student talk over top of me and I didn't correct them, what I showed my class was that it's okay for them to do that. If I had told that student to stop talking, I addressed it with them, and there was a consequence, then the class would see, oh, she's serious, and she's going to not let this happen. And hopefully that would have stopped it. So a lot of people will say once something like this happens that there's no coming back from it and that you just have to suffer through the rest of the year. Well, I beg to differ, because we're about to get it under control in my classrooms. So what I did was I made a list of all of the issues that we're having in my classes. Things like people taking too long in the bathroom and taking advantage of it, people wandering around and bothering other people when they're supposed to be working, students talking over top of me when I'm giving directions. That's just a few of the issues that we're having. So I made a PowerPoint where I literally typed up the rules and procedures for class, almost like it's the first day of class again. And what I'm going to do is I'm literally going to reteach the rules and procedures for class. I'm going to tell them the things that are acceptable, the things that are unacceptable. Then I'm going to talk about the issues that we're having. And then I'm going to tell the consequences for what is going to happen. So if you take too long in the bathroom or you're wandering and I have addressed it with you and it happens again, then you will lose your privilege of being able to leave class and go to the bathroom or run errands or whatever. And so I've laid out specifically what is going to happen. If you are talking while I am talking, then you will lose your privilege to talk for the rest of class, and you will come and sit with me at my desk and work. I know they don't want to do that. They want to sit with other students. So to me, that is a good consequence. And then I put if these issues, and I did that for all of the issues. And then I put what will happen if you're a repeat offender. So you're a person that does this all the time, and I've warned you. I said it may be a write-up, or I may hold you for swag, which would be our smart lunch time, or I'm going to contact your parents at home. So I'm going to spend class time today going over this, and yes, it's going to take some time. And then today I'm going to be super, super strict about enforcing the things that I have been talking about. And people may say, oh, you have to wait till the end of the year, you can't just start over. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You just have to, I think, start by retelling the rules and procedures and saying this is kind of a warning overall for everyone and a reminder of the things that are acceptable and unacceptable. And I'm also going to take this time to apologize to the students and tell them that I have not been doing a good job of enforcing my rules and procedures, and that that's going to change. And so by making that statement, I'm taking responsibility, and also I'm telling them that I'm going to do something about it. But you have to make sure if you tell them you're going to do something about it, that you actually do it. I can do this whole presentation today and speech and everything, but if a student talks while I'm talking and I don't address it, it's over. It's worth nothing. So I think that's what some teachers are talking about. You just have to make sure you follow through. Hopefully this will help you if you are having issues like this in your classroom. And like I said, I'm having this issue with literally all of my classes. I think it's also just the time of year. So around October, November, December, students start to kind of slip. And everybody's tired. So I think it's just a good time to review procedures. Another good time to review procedures and rules would be whenever you come back from a break. So like when my students go for Thanksgiving break in November and they return, a lot of times they've forgotten all the rules, so I would review them. Same thing for spring break or Christmas break. Any kind of holidays that your school may have where students are out for multiple days, when they return, they may need you to quickly review rules and procedures. Also, I think this works for pretty much any age level. This would definitely work for elementary and middle, and I can tell you it works for high school. Also, I think this is good because every teacher does it differently. So just reminding them that these are my rules, these are my procedures, and your other teachers may do it differently, but this is how I'm going to do it is good. Another thing that you can do is when you see students who are following your rules and procedures, I thank them. So for instance, one of mine is when you come in, you immediately get whatever you need, you get started, you get kind of settled in your assigned seat if you have assigned seats, and you get started on the bell ringer. I have some students who do this every single day. I make sure that I thank them, and I tell them why. I may say, thank you for going to your seat and getting started on the bell ringer. I really appreciate that. It sounds kind of elementary, but it works. And it reminds other students that they should be doing the same thing. Sometimes I even walk around with candy or stickers and give them out to people that are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Really simple, and it shows them that you're getting rewarded for doing what you need to do. I also have went around sometimes with a pen or a marker or a highlighter and just make like a mark on the student's paper. And they'll say, what was that for? And I'll say, and I don't really tell them. And sometimes it'll be a mark because they're not following directions or they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And it may be something that when I grade the assignment, I just kind of note, okay, this student has 3 lines on their paper, which tells me 3 times they were doing something they were not supposed to be doing. And then when they make a bad grade on the assignment, I can say, you see these lines? That's 3 times that you were not doing what you're supposed to be doing, and that's the reason you made a bad grade. So there's a lot of little things that you can do. If you have students who are repeat offenders, I have seen them sometimes doing things like, let's say they get out of their seat too much or something. I may give them 3 paper clips or something. And every time they get out of their seat, they have to give me a paper clip. And once they've done it 3 times, then they're done. They can't get up out of their seat anymore. I do that sometimes for my wanderers. Again, very elementary school, but if they're a repeat offender, maybe they need that. Or maybe they blurt out. And then you say, okay, you get 2 blurt outs, and then after that, like, you're coming back here and sitting with me, or I'm going to hold you for swag. I would just make sure if you're going to do something like that, that you, for one, are definitely holding them accountable, but also, 2, you fully explain what you're doing to them. So if I'm going to say you get 3 times to get out of your seat, and then after that, here's what's going to happen. And that they understand that before you start doing it, because that's one way to make a student really mad, is to kind of punish them, but they don't really know what they're being punished for or why. You have to explain it to them. So I'm going to try to record some pieces of this speech so that you can kind of see me in action, and if none of the clips show up in here, then it's not good. And if they do, then it is good. So here's the deal. We've been having a lot of issues in here. Okay? Some of you, we don't have any issues. But for the most part, all of you have at least one thing that you need to work on. Okay? I will take responsibility and say, I have not been doing a good job of holding you accountable, so it's going to change. So in order for that to happen, I'm going to go over all the rules and procedures like it's day 1. Everybody's going to start with a clean slate, and we're going to start over, okay? Because this is not usually a conversation that I have to have with my honors classes. So I need for all of you to listen, pay attention, so you make sure that you understand the rules and procedures so that you can follow them. Sound good? Okay. So, the first one is, at the beginning of class, we have a lot of trouble with this one. So, your job is to come into the room, go to your assigned seat, or go to your seat. If you need a pencil or supplies, or you need to sharpen a pencil, you take care of that while you're getting seated. If there's a bell ringer on the board, which is there usually? Yes, or I'm in the process of putting it up when you come in, that you go ahead and get started on it. Okay? If there's nothing on the board, then just stay in your seat and wait till I get something up there. I will give you directions. Sometimes there isn't one, but you, for the most part, know we do kind of the same thing each day of the week, and then on Friday, it's what? What's on Friday? Your STEMS quiz, so you study, right? And you know that. So I need you, when you come in, to get in your seat and get whatever you need to get done. Okay? So here are some issues that we need to work with on this. You need to get to class on time. Some of you are not getting here on time because you're going to the bathroom. So if you can't go to the bathroom or go run that errand and come back before the bell, I'm going to have to start marking you tardy. I don't really mark tardies, but I'm going to have to because some of you are using me and abusing me on this one. So you need to make sure. If you can't go before the bell is going to ring, then just wait, and you know I will let you go later. I always do. Some of you are walking around the room and visiting. I don't have a problem with you walking around and visiting, but when the bell rings, what does that mean? Get in your seat. Yep, and start doing the warm-up. Okay? So if you want to walk around and visit, that's fine, but then when the bell rings, it's my time, so you need to get to your seat. Okay, during class, this is our big one. Okay, this is our one that we're struggling with in here. So when I'm talking, you need to be listening. Okay? And with the second one, when I give directions, you need to be listening. A lot of you think you know what the directions are going to be, so you tune me out. And then you make a bad grade. You should not have in headphones when we're reading together. Like when we were reading Oedipus. Were you allowed to have headphones in when we were reading? No. I let you listen to music while you're working, but when it's my time, I need your full attention. Okay? When you take 15 minutes to swing your legs, somebody else is in here doing the potty dance. Okay? So do what you need to do and get out. Because we're talking about these things, we're also going to talk about consequences really fast. So for the most part, if you are talking while I'm talking, or you're not sitting in your seat doing what you need to do, then I'm going to make you come sit back at the table with me. And that's not going to be fun. Okay? It also means if we're doing a group project, now you're doing your own project. And I'm going to make you talk to me. Which is also not fun. Because you know, if your parents pull you to talk about your choices, it is not a nice conversation. Okay? If you're late to class, or you're walking around when the bell rings, I'm going to mark you tardy. I feel like that's a natural consequence for that one. And it's, you know, it will call home and tell them you were late, and they're going to yell at you. If you have multiple problems with going to the bathroom or staying out too long, then I'm going to quit letting you go. Because other people are waiting on you. Most of you are doing fine with that, but some of you have problems. If you're using your stuff at the wrong time, then I'm going to take it until the end of class. And then, hopefully we don't get to this point, but now that you've learned it all again, if you become a repeat offender, I'm going to start holding you for swag for it. I'm going to start calling home, and I might have to write you up depending on what it is. Because I'm giving you clean slate, I'm also going to say, you may pick a new seat. Okay? So you may choose who you want to sit with. Please make wise choices. Anybody got any questions before we move? Is everybody okay with this? We good? Okay, move. Or stay. Whatever you want to do. So, hopefully this helps you some with enforcing rules and procedures in your classroom and also deciding what your consequences are going to be. You can look up natural consequences online and find plenty of examples. And really, as adults, that's what's going to happen is natural consequences. If you come to work late too many times, you're going to get fired. So these kind of things make sense, especially for high schoolers, because that's the world that they're getting ready to go into. If you have any questions for me about enforcing rules and procedures or suggestions, let me know down in the comments, and then tell me what's one thing that you do when your students do not follow the rules and procedures. Do you use natural consequences, or do you have something else that you use? And I hope that you're having a great school year, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.